This video is sponsored by BetterHelp. In this video we are going to build 3D printed flexible impeller water pump. Yes, you heard it right, flexible impeller. We are going to make this happen with combination of resin 3D printers, FDM printers and laser cutter. There was so much things that went wrong, but after a lot of hours redesigning, reprinting, the result was better than I hoped for. So let's get right into it. First I started printing water pump housing. I actually printed two. One of them are 3D printed with resin, and for the printer I used Elegoo Mars 5 and Sanliu ABS-like resin. By the way, this is a perfect combo because Mars 5 Ultra is extremely fast resin printer, and Sanliu ABS-like resin you can print fast without losing any quality and strength. And for a little bonus, this resin is almost odorless. I only use ABS-like resins and I have tried a lot of them. And this Sanliu ABS-like resin is one I stick to. So it was absolutely way to go, and the final result turned out fantastic. The second one is printed with Bambulab A1, and for the material I used PLA. I printed two bump housings because FDM printed one I will use for testing different impeller designs, till I find the best one. And then for the final bump I use resin printed housing. Both of them had lot of supports, and removing resin supports was pretty satisfying, but the FDM supports was a struggle to get them off, especially in this area. Before we move on to the impellers, let's do all the preparations for the water pump. There is not much to do actually. First I installed one shaft seal and 608 bearing to the pump housing. Then I also needed a shaft. The shaft is 70mm long and around 20mm of the shaft have to be sanded flat. I did this by hand. When I finally got this done, I also printed this thing. This goes on the shaft, and the purpose of this is to save a little bit material when I start printing impellers. I can connect the impellers straight to the shaft, but I use this one instead, like I said, to save some resin later on. Basically everything is done, but the lead is missing. The lead is 3D printable, but because we are doing video over here, we wanna see inside the pump. So I have this acrylic lead, and I made this by myself. The channel got heavily upgraded with X-Tool, B2 laser engraver and cutter. Usually a desktop laser cannot cut transparent acrylic, but this one has CO2 laser, and it goes through the transparent acrylic like a butter. I have no experience with the laser cutters, but this one is so easy to use and it's safe. So now when I have my transparent lead for the bump, we can move on to the impellers. The story with the impellers was a lot of experimenting. My idea to get this pump working exceptionally well was to use flexible resin. I was thinking it's like a rubber, but it turned out it's actually a little bit different. This is my first print with flexible resin ever, and it feels really weird. It flexed for sure, but it took so long to restore the original position. This is not ideal for this water pump at all. So I printed more test prints, increasing the thickness of the blade, hoping the extra material helps to restore the original position. Well, it did, but it's also way harder to bend. It just wouldn't work in this pump. Also I printed this one on supports, and this was really bad idea for this resin. First of all, this was really hard to remove. I had hard time to understand which part is model and which are supports. Also the support side broke so easily. It's like silicone or something. So this one is also unusable for this reason. I started feeling stressed and pressure for not getting this right. Stress is really bad for your mental health and physical body. For some people it can trigger physical problems like IBS. I am one of them. Every time when I feel anxious, stressed or pressured, my gut starts hurting. This makes me even more stressed, which make my gut even worse. And the circle continues. This is called gut and brain axis. And of course dealing with anxiety, especially when it's tied to physical condition, can be incredibly challenging. But it's important to remember that you don't face those struggles alone. That's where the BetterHelp's today's video sponsor comes in. BetterHelp connects you with licensed therapist, who is trained to listen you and give you helpful unbased advice. First you go to their site and answer a few questions, and BetterHelp will match you to a professional who has years of experience helping people with struggles like yours. You can do it all from your phone or computer, via phone call, video chat or messaging, however you feel most comfortable. This is the easiest possible way to start talking to a therapist. Let BetterHelp connect you with a therapist who can support you, all from the comfort of your own home. Visit betterhelp.com/letsprint or choose Let's Sprint during sign up, and enjoy the special discount for first month. I think I actually have idea to get this working. I'm going back to the first design, but I do one thing differently. I cure this way shorter period of time than I did before, only 1.5 minutes. Now it's way better and it actually flex. So I'm going for it and assemble the water pump. I wanna power the pump with my 4-motor gearbox, but I need somewhere to mount this. So I went back to my laser cutter and was going to cut myself a nice wood plate. For the wood I chose 20mm thick pine wood. This is something I have laying around. I'm not going to lie, I'm complete beginner with laser. So I was still testing with correct settings. I find 100% power and 3 mm per second with 2 passes should work fine. So I imported my sketch and set everything up. I mean, it was 2-minute job because this machine is just so fantastic. With 2 cameras and automatic material measure, even beginner like me will find this machine really easy to use. So I give it a go. It took around 7 minutes because the cut speed was so low, but at the end it almost went through. I should cut it a little bit slower, but this type of oopsie doopsies can happen to everyone. Let me show you how easy it is to fix this with this machine. First I flipped the wood plate and placed this back to X-Tool be due. Then I took the same sketch I used and flipped this in software also. Now I see those lines where it almost got through. I matched those lines with sketch lines. I also zoomed in hard and used high quality camera to match this as well as possible. When this was done, I changed the cut settings to 100% power and 15 mm per second with 1 pass. Then I sent it back to machine and crossed my fingers. When it was done, boom, I have my mount. Now I epoxy glued one 3D printed piece to wood plate where the pump later stand on. I also connected my 4-motor gearbox to my water pump with a coupler and secured the gearbox to the wood plate. And now let's see, does it even work? Unfortunately, no it doesn't. The gearbox has some issue. I fix this later, but for now I'm going to use my power drill. This seems to work, but I don't wanna run it dry too long. So let's see, will it pump some water? Well, it definitely does, but now we have even bigger issue. I don't mean leaking, this is expected that this one will leak. But look inside the pump. Half of the vanes are broken and snapped right off from the impeller. Obviously this makes this impeller completely unusable. But I wanna give one last chance for this resin, so I 3D printed new impeller with thicker blades. Also I fixed my 4-motor gearbox, so let's see how it goes now. First of all, this impeller is way harder to turn, so my gearbox cannot handle it. So I switched back to power drill. But it's so hard to turn, even power drill cannot handle it. Also the middle section broke. So the story with this flexible resin ends now. And we are going to use one of the strongest materials that you can 3D print at home. This is TPU. TPU is also flexible, but it's mega strong material. This should be excellent for this application. So I 3D printed 2 impellers with my Creality K1C. I printed 2, they are slightly different to see which design works better for this water pump. I started with thinner blade impeller, and because it works so well I didn't even test the second option. But still I had some problems. First of all, my 4-motor gearbox didn't handle this impeller also. And the middle section broke again. Before I assembled the final water pump, I did one last change. I removed the middle connection thing, and now the impeller goes straight to the shaft. Now when this is said, I assembled the final water pump that is printed with Sunliu ABS-like resin, and to increase the performance I painted this to blue. The assembly is exactly the same that I showed you before, but the key difference is silicone. I used this to seal the lead. This should make this water pump completely leak-proof, but also it's not so easy to disassemble if needed. That's why I didn't use this before while I was testing the impellers. But now let's finally see will this pump some water. Now finally, this water pump works, but even all my efforts to make this leak-proof, some water still can make through the lead. I mean, this is not severe, but it leaks. Even though this pump performs extremely well, first of all, this pump self-primes, which is already a big thing. I have built this type of water pump before, but then the result wasn't nearly as good as it is right now. I really wanted to make some use of my flexible resin, but this was not it. And the TPU saved the project. Also I wanna add, this model is free, and if you wanna build this by yourself, go ahead, you find the link down below. Also big thanks for watching and see you guys really soon. But for now, bye.